Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful tri-state area. Welcome to our 106th episode, 2.5 years plus on the air and still going strong. It's always a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you so much for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly does make it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And also remember that we're now live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, FinTech TV, Wednesdays, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are now streaming 24/7 on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV. And of course, you can always find us on our YouTube channel at Zen Sams. We have such a great show lined up for you today. Very, very exciting stuff as usual in our PoliticGuy segment brought to you by ogpay.com. We're featuring Sean Parnell, politician, combat veteran, New York Times bestselling author, and host of Battleground Podcast. Sean is a retired US Army Infantry Captain who served in some of the heaviest combat in the Afghan War. He's the author of the best-selling memoir, Outlaw Platoon. Today, we're chatting Trump's indictment and what this means for the Republicans going into the 2024 elections. In our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by Romulus Entertainment, we're featuring Melisa Billie Clark, author, editor-at-large, journalist, and host of Wellness 360, a new show debuting on the Roku channel and appearing across cable networks in the US and the Caribbean. Today, we're chatting about the underrepresentation of women in media, both as consumers and as media personalities. In our Music Madness segment brought to you by Navi Travel, we're chatting all about the influencer to artist pipeline with the legendary Charlie Walk, founder of Music Mastery and CEO of Aspen Music. He's also former president of Epic and Republic Records and the host of the top-rated podcast, Walk This Way. Today, he's joined by country artist Taylor Holder with the current hit song, Marry Me, and with 20 million followers on TikTok. Today, we're chatting all about the age of digital and reacting to the impact of digitalization in the music industry. In the Scandals segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames, we're featuring Imran Ansari of Idala Bertuna Kamins, otherwise known as ABK Law right here in the city. He's a regular contributor and legal analyst on Law and Crime and Court TV. Today, he's here to chat about the biggest legal issues currently facing Donald Trump and what it all means for 2024 elections, and will the Donald get off squeaky clean? Now stay tuned for our PoliticGuy segment. We're featuring Sean Parnell, politician, combat veteran, New York Times bestselling author, and host of the Battleground Podcast. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes, we have our PoliticGuy segment brought to you by ogpay.com. And today we're featuring Sean Parnell, politician, combat veteran, New York Times bestselling author, and host of Battleground Podcast. Sean is a retired US Army Infantry Captain who served in some of the heaviest combat of the Afghan War. He's the author of the best-selling memoir, Outlaw Platoon, and the Eric Steele novels. He's also the co-founder of the American Warrior Initiative, a charity that honors and empowers our veterans. Today, we're chatting Trump's indictment and what this means for the Republicans going into the 2024 elections. Now, former President Donald Trump raked in more than $5 million in donations in the 48 hours after he was initially indicted. Trump's supporters threw in $4 million in the first 24 hours alone, followed by more than 1 million the following day, according to Axios. Now, the funding surge serves to partially confirm the claims from Trump and some of his allies that an indictment would only serve to further ingratiate him to his base. This is someone who has run twice for president of the United States. And now there's a whole new group of Trump supporters who are angered by what they're seeing. Trump campaign spokesman Stephen Chung was quoted saying the Manhattan DA's crusade against President Donald Trump is nothing more than political prosecution. And just like with every other hoax that President Trump has been targeted with, there is no crime whatsoever except for election interference by radical Democrats through weaponization of our justice system against President Trump and his supporters. Heavy words. Here to chat 2024 elections and Donald Trump's indictment is my good friend, Sean Parnell. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Zen, it's great to be here. And that was one heck of an intro. It's great to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's dive right in. Crazy stuff.
Yes.
So Trump's charges relate to his role in sending alleged hush payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels in an effort to prevent her from speaking out about their relationship. But even some of Trump's longtime critics, Sean, have expressed skepticism at Alvin Bragg's indictment. What's going on here?
Well, first of all, it's ridiculous. It's a total political hit job. And if you talk to people, especially I'm from Pennsylvania, I ran 2 campaigns here. I'm wired into how people are feeling. And by the way, not just Republicans, but also Democrats. I come from a Union Democrat family, and I talk to people about this. And you know what their reaction is then? Their reaction is an eye roll. It's like, oh, God, they're going after President Trump again. And it's surprising how many people know and remember that Stormy Daniels wrote a letter saying that an affair never happened, that there was no hush money paid to her through Donald Trump. So even though, and by the way, Bragg apparently withheld that information from a grand jury in New York. So I think people are rightfully skeptical of this indictment. And not only did it have a fundraising benefit, to President Trump, Zen, as you mentioned, Trump raised $5 million post-indictment. He's also seen massive political benefits. If you look at the Trafalgar poll, which is just released today, right? Pre-indictment, Trump had a 12-point lead over DeSantis and a fairly massive lead over everybody else in the presidential field. But post-indictment, his lead is tripled, Zen. He's like at something like an insane 33% lead over DeSantis in second place. So I think people see this for what it is. I think people see this as political, just another hoax in a long line of hoaxes trying to go after President Trump. Since he really came down the escalator back in 2016, I think people are over it. People are sick of it.
Totally sick of it. I mean, look, even Jeb Bush, and we know that the relationship between Jeb and Trump has been bittersweet over the years, but he tweeted and he said it best. He said, Bragg's predecessor, which was Cyrus Vance Jr., not my favorite, but either way, he didn't even take up the case. The Justice Department didn't take up the case. And Bragg first said he would not take up the case. So this is very, very political and not a matter of justice. And in this case, let the jury be the voters, right? Now, Trump's attorney, Joe Tacopina, will dissect this indictment. The team will look at every potential issue that they're going to be able to challenge, and they will challenge. And of course, this motion to dismiss is critical because there's just no law that fits this, furthering Trump's witch hunt theory. Had he not been running for presidency for 2024, which, by the way, the polls, to your point, have shown since this has been announced, his numbers have gone up significantly. Had he not been running for presidency, Sean, do you think he would have been indicted?
No. And you talk about like the idea that the Democrats are going after the front runner in the 2024 cycle. Well, that's exactly what they're doing. And you have conservative pundits. I would say it's about 50-50 at this point, Zen. There are some more establishment conservatives who are out there saying like, well, the Democrats are just trying to indict Trump because they want to elevate him because they prefer him in a general election. Look, I don't agree with that, and I think that the bottom line is they're afraid of President Trump in his movement. And I think what some of these the mistakes that some of these more establishment conservative pundits make is they look at 2022, for example. Let's use the state of Pennsylvania for an example. There were all sorts of parallels drawn between Dr. Oz as a celebrity. He's not a politician. He was pulled into politics from outside of politics, much in the same way that President Trump wanted. He's a wealthy guy, successful in the private sector. And what I always said back then, Zen, is like, the media and pundits are making the mistake of lumping anyone in with Donald Trump, because the fact of the matter is Dr. Oz is not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the most electrifying figure in American politics, period, end of story. And if you've been to his rallies, and I've spoken at 3 of them in Pennsylvania, the last one that we spoke at, Zen, was I think on Halloween leading up to Election Day in 2020 in Butler County, which is part of my district for Congress that I was running in back then. This is not an exaggeration. I stood on that stage. And I mean, I'm talking in small town Butler County, Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
He had 60,000 people there, and like people walking. You drive up there, there'd be traffic jams for miles, people walking along the street, and cops are directing people as if they're cars. I've never seen anything like that in politics before.
It's the Trump movement.
It's a movement.
And actually, which brings me to my next point, where others may focus on the hazards of a criminal case, Trump raises money, promotes his campaign, and works to reduce the case to this cliff-hanging spectacle by treating the case as a spectacle, rather than a serious issue. He's discrediting it, and at least in the eyes of his supporters, now it's discredited because of his reactions. Now, rather than hang his head, Sean, in shame, as many facing the possibility of prison might, he frames it as just another Trumpian drama, the latest reality show cliffhanger here. What do you say to this? Will he get off, or will his enemies get him?
Well, oh my gosh. I mean, look, let's use the past as a way to look at, maybe give us some indication of how the future will unfold here. People have been trying to get this guy. And I say that with a get this guy since, like I said, he came down the escalator in 2016. And President Trump really hasn't done anything wrong. And all the same people that are trying to get him, like just before this guy ran for president, these people would line around the blocks in New York City just for the chance to get into his parties. And they didn't oppose him until he started running for president on the Republican ticket. In fact, they didn't even really oppose him until he was in the general election in 2016 against Hillary Clinton. So these people are all hypocrites, right? And so let's talk about, like, for a second, the idea that the consultants class right now, they're trying to shape and define what 2024 should look like all over the place. I hear, well, Trump can't win in critical places like Georgia and Arizona, and if you can't win there, you can't win the presidency. Well, I say, like, look at 2022. And these very same consultants would tell you that, well, all Trump's candidates for major, statewide candidates lost. Well, I say, so did the establishment candidates, right? If you look at, like, Blake Masters in Arizona, lost a very, very close race in Arizona. And anyone that's paying attention to the race in Arizona knows that elections in Arizona, largely in Maricopa County, are an absolute disaster. But look in Nevada, another critical swing state. Adam Laxalt, great guy, had Trump's endorsement, but was largely considered to be an establishment Republican. Yeah. He lost as well, right? In fact, the one candidate that run a statewide race that for Senate that won was in Ohio, but Ohio's like an R+7, and J.D. Vance is loyal to Trump. So this idea that all of Trump's statewide candidates lost, or his candidates did terrible down ballot, or that Trump can't win, let's remind your viewers, Zen, and just people who are trying to look at 2024 fairly. President Trump was by far, and it's not even close, the most popular Republican president in American history, in the critical battleground state of Pennsylvania.
Oh, I believe you. Listen, you're preaching to the choir. And here's the sad part, that, we have about 3 minutes left. I want to be mindful of the time. But these charges, they relate to this, if we're going to go back and look at the bird's eye view here. First of all, which president hasn't paid off some kind of stripper or porn star or hooker, right? Number one. Number two,
Bill Clinton.
Exactly. Number two, it's to my understanding that Trump's attorney made the payment to Stormy Daniels and to Karen McDougal, one for $130,000 and the other one for $150,000 on Trump's behalf. And then Trump used, basically reimbursed the lawyer, right, against the payment that he made on his behalf, and then took that as expenses towards his campaign. So these charges relate to these 2016 alleged hush money scandal, right? But it's not the fact that he paid off the strippers or the Playboy models. That's not even what they're arguing. Like, pay them off, do what you want. But it's that he then took that and tried to use it towards his basically campaign donations as a write-off. So this is like a big witch hunt, to say the least. But more, if you look at it, it's like they're trying so hard, such a stretch. They're grappling, they're trying to get anything they can on this guy, and it's just evident. It's evident, like, they weren't improper donations to the Trump campaign, which helped his candidacy during the 2016 elections. This is not what this was, but that's what they're going after him for. So there's a huge disconnect with what the law is and what the justice is.
Amen. I totally agree. And this is like, anytime you look at how they're attacking President Trump, what they accuse us of as Republicans, or specifically President Trump, they're often guilty of. And look at what James O'Keefe just broke, what could be a massive money laundering scandal through ActBlue, through Democrat donors to Democrat candidates. The Democrats are the kings and queens of campaign finance violations, yet they're going after President Trump and trying to make this indictment something more than it is. Everybody knows that it's bogus. In fact, if you believe the polls, ABC just came out with a poll today saying 55% of Americans do not support this indictment. So it's bogus. The American people know it.
Indicting a former president and a candidate in the next election is beyond the pale. It's election interference and totally the stuff of banana republics.
Totally
and this
agree.
is the first time in American history that a current or former president has faced criminal charges. That alone makes it historic, fine. But Trump is currently a few months into his third White House bid, and his criminal case jolts the 2024 presidency campaign into a totally new phase right now. And he's vowed to keep running in the face of criminal charges. So this is just going to catapult him exactly back where they don't want him to be, which is probably the president of the United States. So let's see what happens and see how it unfolds.
It's going to be a battle, and I'm here for it.
All right, tell me about your podcast really quickly.
Well, we just launched it back in January, and we're doing one episode a week, talking to super interesting people. And, you go in the media, you get 2 minutes to talk about something. But what I like about podcasts is you can go a little bit deeper with some of the most interesting people on the planet, people that have taken really tough stances on things. This podcast is called Battleground, and we talk about leadership and overcoming adversity. And as we talked a little bit about before we went live here, is that it's just it's fun, it's awesome, and it's growing like gangbusters, and it's been really fun to be a part of. So, subscribe to it wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on Rumble, YouTube. We'd love to have you. We need your support. So thank you.
There you go.
Thank you for having me.
Well, there you go. You guys definitely heard him. Amazing voice, amazing guy, amazing dad. Definitely check out Sean Parnell.
Thank you.
Check him out on the gram at Sean Parnell USA or at official Sean Parnell. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, this is Kathy Ireland here on A Moment of Zen, brought to you by Your Home TV. We've developed an all-inclusive subscription-free network that you're going to love, whether it's financial freedom, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, wonderful weddings, travel and culture, cooking, entertainment, and short-form documentaries, programming for everyone. Classic films and new shows, including Kathy Ireland Presents American Dreams. We've developed this network just for you. Please check out yourhometv.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes, we have our entertainment and pop culture segment brought to you by Romulus Entertainment. And our next guest is my dear friend, Melisa Billie Clark, author, editor, journalist, and host of Wellness 360. It's a brand new show that airs on Roku, cable network throughout the US and the Caribbean. Now, Melisa's focus has always been on positive journalism. She's interviewed some of the biggest names: Dr. Deepak Chopra, Fran Dresser, Michael Kutcher, Chaz Palminteri, Don Felder, Susan Lucci, Heather Graham, Judge Marilyn Milian. That's just to name a few. Today, she and I are chatting about the underrepresentation of women in media, both as consumers and as media personalities. Now, whether they were the voices over the microphone, the brains behind the operations, or the skilled technicians building the television masts and installing the radio valves, women have always played a role in getting information to the masses. Yet, women in media are still vastly underrepresented as men continue to dominate newsrooms across America. Men account for 70% of quoted sources and 66% of experts in all news stories, while female voices are still taking a backseat. Only 40% of TV news sources were women, while radio had only 36% and newspapers barely 28%. The number of women who were presented as experts was even lower. All very, very tragic stuff, if you ask me. Here to give us perspective is my dear friend, Melisa Billie Clark. Welcome to the show, Stunner.
Thank you, Zen. Thank you so much for having us here. I'm so excited to be with you.
Thank you. So let's dive right in, Melisa. Here, women are more visible in the world's news than ever before, but we're still far more further away from achieving parity with men. Even with all the work that has been done to improve gender equity on screen, yes, there are so many players that have done so much work. Unfortunately, women are still underrepresented. What needs to change?
The money. What do you think? I mean, we're still getting underpaid, and we're still being underrepresented as women in journalism. We're not really being taken seriously. However, I really believe that things are changing. As I turn on CNN, I see, there's two women against one man. And they're, well, not against, but they're talking. And I just really think that the pay needs to change. Recently, there was a woman in San Diego. She left her job because her co-star was making $80,000 more. So I just think the money needs to change. What do you think?
I mean, the money needs to change. Attitudes needs to shift. The inclusion check marks need to actually be followed through with these big companies that say they actually want to do right by women. I mean, according to the just released Global Media Monitoring Project, women made up 40% of reporters and 25% of news sources across print, TV, radio, internet news, and Twitter. So this was a record result for women as both news workers and sources, but still, Melisa, well short of equality. And the report estimates it's going to take another 67 years to close the gender gap in news. That's not acceptable. So, from my perspective, it's a whole bunch of attitude shifts. It's a whole bunch of course, equal pay is equal rights. Of course, that's also important. But I really do think that women need to start to collectively have more of a united voice and stick together, because that's really going to pave the way.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And we should build each other up too while we're at it. Once we do that, people will see that, we're there and we have each other's back. So it's still a topic, and it's still going to continue ongoing, because we'll never have fair rights as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's shift a little bit. How did you get started? And as a woman, what has been your hardest struggle in your TV and media career?
Well, I got started. I worked for Metropolitan Magazine, and I was a writer for them. And Adam Kluger, at the time, he was my editor. He said, I was interviewing Moby, and he goes, Melisa, you should really be on camera. He goes, you have something about you. So Adam was actually the first person to give me that confidence, and I loved it so much. And I took it and I went with it. So I started doing on-air interviews for them. And then from there, I just started working for companies and just going on the red carpet and interviewing people. And I felt so happy where I was supposed to be in that life, at that time in my life. What was the second question, Zen? I'm sorry.
Oh, your hardest struggle.
Oh, the hardest struggle is the ego in this industry. I received this message from Kimberly Meredith. She's a woman that I interviewed. It's either ego or I go. And, the ego I can't compete with. I always say that to everybody in this industry. It's, I'm a kind person. I do a lot for others, and I don't expect anything in return, but I just expect some respect. So the hardest part of this industry is respect and just letting go of ego, so you can do your job and everybody can work together properly.
Amen to that, sister. Amen to that.
That's right.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, we need women in leadership roles, that's for sure, because it all, trickles down. So if you have women in leadership roles, if you have women at the top of the networks, if you have women at the top of the radio stations and presidents, then it really kind of changes the work ethic within a company. And of course, when you look at the statistics, I mean, research suggests women remain locked out of top roles in media and entertainment. And even with corporate America's increased focus on ensuring gender parity, women in this industry experience a more hostile workplace than men and face a glass ceiling that really prevents them from reaching top leadership roles. Melisa, it's quite devastating. Over here in our case, in live radio, there are over 4,000 radio announcers currently employed in the United States. 34% of all radio announcers are women, while over 65% are men. So, we have big gaps here. But either way, this is not a venting about where we are. It's about how we could change the narrative and move forward, because women right now are a minority, and we really need to roll up our sleeves, stick together, unify, and pave the way for our children, the next generation. Now, a true connection with your audience, Melisa, has nothing to do with the amount of testosterone flowing through your veins, and everything to do with whether or not you are able to make and hold that connection. What do you love talking about the most? I know you have a new show coming up.
Yeah, I like to talk about helping other people, what we can do for our community. How can we use our journalism, our jobs for the greater good? What resources can we bring into to help people who don't have those resources and are not open to that? So, on this program, I want to even bring animals into this. I want to, because veterinarian, it's such a high industry, it's high paying price, and people can't take care of their animals. So I want to bring in a lot of resources where we can talk about diabetes. I want to bring in experts, that can help people who cannot go to the doctor because they can't afford it. So we want to do that here in the US. We want to help out the people in the Caribbean as well, and give them a good quality of life. So that's what I want my job to be. And I definitely just want to help people who don't have these resources.
You are just all around, just a good soul. Now, if you could go back and give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I would tell my little baby girl that everything is okay. As you know, I buried two parents, and it doesn't get any lonelier in life than not having that unconditional love. So thank God I have my animals for that, and I have my beautiful sisters and my wonderful family and friends. But just that love from your parents is gone, and although I still feel them, but my little girl, I go back to her all the time, and I tell her everything is going to be okay. We're going to get through this with the grace of God. I'm totally into believing in a connection with God, and him and I are getting through this together.
You are totally faith-based, in terms of your responses and your reactions. You're a pure soul. You're transparent. I love that, people feel comfortable talking to you, because I think, you finally have come full circle and you feel comfortable within yourself. I know that doesn't happen overnight. I know that you have been at your career for quite some time, both as a woman and host in media and in entertainment. It's not always easy, but here you are, standing the test of time, launching your new show called Wellness 360.
Yeah.
You're going to cover it all. When and where can we hear the show?
So right now we have a launch date of 4/17, so April 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can find us on the website ulfn.org. We're on the Roku channel, and we are on cable network throughout the US and the Caribbean as well. So I'm looking forward to it. And you know me, I always promote myself. I'm so excited about it. And we thank you for coming on our AM show that we have here.
Oh, absolutely. You guys definitely have to check out Melisa Billie Clark. That was our entertainment and pop culture segment, brought to you by Romulus Entertainment. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Thank you very much, Sen. You're amazing. God bless you. Thank you.
Guys, definitely do check out her new show, Wellness 360, airs on Roku, cable network throughout the US and the Caribbean. You could head to ulfn.org. That was Melisa Billie Clark. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Nave, a members-only travel portal exclusively available through Organo, offering members steep discounts on nightly or weekly hotel stays, cruises, auto rentals, excursions, and so much more. With its travel getaway portal, Nave makes the days of surfing multiple travel sites and spending hours evaluating the best deals done with. That's because with Nave, you are guaranteed the best prices. Plus, to gain access to an even more expansive collection of condos, hotels, cruises, vacation villas, fantasy getaways, and concierge service, there's Forever Weeks. Simply purchase a Nave Forever Weeks package one time and enjoy the benefits many times. With Forever Weeks, forever means forever. Not only does Nave guarantee you the best prices, but it is also one of the few travel portals that pays a referral bonus, in addition to you earning rewards points, which can be redeemed on the Travel Getaway portal for further discounted hotel room rates. Become a member today and navigate the world of travel. Nave, the world for you to experience. For more information, go to nave.travel. That's nave, N-A-V-E.travel.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. In our Music Madness segment, brought to you by Navi Travel, we're chatting all about the influencer to artist pipeline with the legendary Charlie Walk, founder of Music Mastery and CEO of Aspen Music. He's also former president of Epic and Republic Records, host of the top-rated podcast Walk This Way. Today, he's joined by rising country artist Taylor Holder. Taylor has over 20 million followers on TikTok, and he's all but 25 years old, one of the 159th most followed users on the app. Now, in addition to his success on TikTok, Taylor began posting longer form videos on YouTube, where he has another 2 million subscribers. He also has 5.5 million Instagram followers. Now, in an age where social media reigns supreme, it's no wonder that the rising stars on heavily used platforms are becoming celebrities in their own right. After starting his own music career a couple of years ago, Taylor is now ready to make his mark with country music. Nominated by Up in Country Awards for Top Artist and Top Male Artist of the Year, coupled with being named one of Nashville's rising stars by Authority magazine, it is safe to say that the pendulum has fully swung in favor of digital and streaming. Now, the influencer to singer pipeline is a growing phenomenon that shows no signs of slowing down. After all, many content creators have achieved profitable music careers and international recognition, proving that transitioning from social media to streaming platforms is possible regardless of musical expertise. TikTok has become a driving force in the music industry, bringing undiscovered artists to overnight stardom and turning old hits into chart-topping tracks. Since influencers already have strong fan bases and experience making viral content, it is more likely that any song they release will gain tons of exposure. Today, we're chatting all about the age of digital and reacting to the impact of digitalization in the music industry. Welcoming now are my superstars at hand, music mogul Charlie Walk and country music artist Taylor Holder. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Amazing to have you both on.
Oh, what's going on?
Charlie,
It's
welcome.
great to be here.
Amazing to have
Taylor
you both
about-
on.
I was telling Taylor about, your platform and what you do, and you just do such a great job in explaining and setting up the authenticity of your guests. So that was perfect, and thank you for having us.
You bet. Charlie, I'm going to jump right into it because I definitely want to pick your brain here. How has social media changed the music industry for artists, and what should brands really be eyeing when looking for their next endorsement?
Well, I think it's good and bad. So I think TikTok has given talent that normally wouldn't have found their way through a funnel an opportunity to expose themselves, to create an audience and make the public be able to make a decision on them to become their own brand in whatever they want to do. I think on the other hand, especially from the music perspective, no one's broken. Really, truly from social media to be a massive star. Yes, a lot of one-hit wonders, Roxanne, maybe Lil Nas X is the exception, but no one else has. And it's because I don't necessarily believe followers become real fans. Followers are followers to look and see what someone's doing to get their attention, but are they really falling in love with the the music or a specific thing that creator is doing. So there's a big difference to me from creator, influencer, and artist. What we're doing here with Taylor, when I identified him, wasn't because he was one of the most followed, popular, sexy guys on TikTok, but we met and he could sing. He's from Texas. We only talked about singing. I could give two craps about him being a bad boy or looking great or boxing. I cared about, you want to be the biggest star in the world and country. That was our conversation, and that's our journey today. And that's why I can tell you, there really is a big difference becoming, if you're an influencer, I think it's a moment for brands. So all the brands really care about who's hot with the most followers and the interactions for this moment. But, we're in the long ball game, right? These kids want careers. What do they do when they graduate from influencer university? What the hell are they supposed to do? Most end up doing, work, going back to their hometown and doing local jobs and living in their 5-mile radius and following sort of what their parents did. So we're here to break that. We're here to change that. We're
Well
also here to
said.
educate. If you think Taylor is running around saying he's the biggest star in the world, he's playing bars, brings in his guitar, invites his fans out, and chaos happens. He's doing the work and understanding that sometimes TikTok and becoming famous allows you to cut the line, but it doesn't give you the right to be the biggest star in the world.
You're right. And you know what? Here's what you do best. And one of the most important lessons is often the one that is taken for granted, taking care of your audience, client and or consumer. How can you genuinely instill utility and value without a community? So Charlie, I love that you always find the human side of every project for your artists, one where everyone wins, the artist, the labels, and the consumer. Nothing fails if everyone wins. And that's your motto. And nothing fails when a good song is on the air. Exactly, just like Marry Me per se, but projects are projects are often too focused on the bottom line, but they really need to be focused on the main line, which is the consumer. And Taylor does a great job at connecting with his audience. Now, Taylor, let's chat from social media to music charts. So social media and streaming have combined to really skyrocket fan engagement as the music industry has grown. And social media has helped humanize the artists more and enabled them to understand their fan base and connect with them, kind of to what we're talking about with you. Now, there's YouTubers and TikTokers like Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio, two of the earliest TikTok creators. They built successful careers as a result of their popularity on the platform. Addison Rae, she came and went very quickly. We see that pivoting to music is a strategic choice for many influencers, and making music is a way to prove yourselves, themselves, as something other than social media stars. And most don't come as talented as you. Where do you get your musical inspiration from? Talk to me about your vocal training and why you choose to focus on country.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, to kind of touch on what you said, everyone kind of getting into the from the social media world to the music world, I feel like also a lot of, me and Charlie have talked about this. It's kind of funny. A lot of people get this great success really, really fast, and then their teams kind of direct them somewhere because they think it'll work for a split second or whatever it is. But a lot of these individuals don't actually want to do music. A lot of these individuals don't actually want to go to these lanes, but they're kind of like forced by their teams to do this because there's quick revenue there, there's quick stuff there. That's why I've been doing the whole social media thing for almost 10 years, and it's took me a while because I actually love music. I've been doing it for a long time. I wasn't always that good. I still have a lot of work to do. I'm nowhere near where I want to be right now as well. But, I still have a lot of work, but I took my craft and I mastered it to where I am today and all that stuff. And that's where I feel like, I could have just put out music when I was, at my most popping and all that stuff, just to put out music. But I really, really wanted to hone in on it and make sure that I loved everything that I was putting out. And that's why I believe that right now is the best time for that. But it does make it a little hard. Everyone kind of has this thing. It's like, oh, you have great success on social media, so it converts. Charlie knows better than anybody. That's not how it always works. All these people that are getting 1 million likes on Instagram cannot even sell out, 2,000 cap room. They can't, all that stuff. So it is, because I blew up from not being an artist. It does make that transition, really hard. It does, it's kind of like starting from ground zero again. Even though you do have a little bit of platform, there's a little bit of help there, but it is, they didn't follow me from being an artist, let alone a country music artist. So
but you're really, really talented. So you've got something that most don't. Now, Charlie, the place of music labels and executives will always remain sacrosanct in the industry. In many ways, social media and streaming platforms have made talent and potential talent more visible. It has also given artists an option and reduced the leverage that labels traditionally had over them. Now, investing and signing an artist today is very different than even 10 years ago. What are the main differences and what adjustments have you had to make to cater to the digital transformation when looking for your next star?
So it's very simple for me. We just started Aspen Music Company, which is Aspen based, and the idea is we're majorly independent or independently major, where we're funded, and we don't look for the bidding war artists. We look for the artists that are doing the work on the come up, the next, and we deploy capital towards them. And that's what we're doing with Taylor. We don't need a major. We're major. He's major. And if a major label sees what we're doing and wants to make a bigger deal to rent our records, we're happy to have that distribution conversation. Distribution really is renting masters, his recordings over a period of time for market share purposes. But I like to do the work. I love this journey. I love, I was thinking this morning when I was working out, Taylor was in the gym too, prepping for this. I was thinking about Ariana Grande when I was at Republic, and I remember she had been signed there for years. And one of the meetings when I first got there was, I'm like, what's up with this girl, Ariana? And someone said, Nickelodeon's, we signed her, but Nickelodeon stars, man, they don't break. Name a Nickelodeon star that crossed over to become a musician. And there was none. Yeah. I'm like, but she has 18 million followers. People like her and she can sing. And I used that same philosophy when I met Taylor. How do you get 30 million people to like you? But the truth of the matter is you really are a musician in your heart, and you're really from Texas, and you're really singing those records, and you really want to live in Nashville, and that's the life you want to live. I'm with that. And so, but you can't go to a label now and say, hey, I've got this guy. They don't care until they care. Our job together is to make people care. And weeks ago, I remember Taylor was nervous. She's like, we're going to do our first show. And we didn't do Nashville, and we could have probably done a couple of thousand people there. We decided to go to Columbia, South Carolina.
No,
and he opened up for his buddy. Where is it?
Columbus, Georgia.
Georgia. We're in Georgia. I didn't even know where we were. We're in Georgia, Columbia, South Carolina. The same good people. The same good people. Fans are everywhere. And we're there. And Taylor opens up, and the video went viral. And we just looked at each other, and he looked at his buddies that have been with him for a long time, his loyal guys and girls and his mama. And we knew we were here. And it was chaos. And what was happening was a natural transformation of followers into music fans.
And that's not something that they all have. And that's something that you do, and you can identify from the beginning. There has to be the right package. Now, of course, we know that the influencer to singer pipeline isn't a phenomenon happening exclusively here in the United States. Influencers from around the world are following suit. Take, for example, Mexican media mogul Kimberly Loaiza, right? Loaiza is the 7th most followed user on TikTok and a veteran in content creation. She began her career in 2016 as a YouTuber making beauty tutorials, and then after the beauty tutorials, she transitioned into vlog style content. She soon became one of the most followed creators in her country and took a leap into music in 2019. Now she's collaborated with Latin music stars Zion and Lennox and Ovi on the drums. She ranked in the top 100 artists in the world in August of last year and now has 5 million Spotify monthly listeners, making her one of the most successful influencers turned singers. Now, Taylor, you found fame on TikTok, like you said earlier, by posting hot guy videos that quickly caught the attention of young teenagers. Did making the transition from TikToker to artist and musician make it difficult for people to take you seriously? You said started from bottom up, but is this a double-edged sword?
I mean, absolutely. That's where I say it's because I got this great success from being, I hate this quote, but like a hot guy on the internet. I didn't get a following from my music, and it's a blessing and a curse because it's the reason I'm here today, right? But it also makes it really hard whenever I do want to step out and be taken serious as an artist. It makes it a little hard because all that stuff comes back up, or let alone a country music artist. They're very cutthroat. They're very like who they accept in and all that stuff, and that's why I love it though. I love the process of proving myself. I love the process of like just being patient, slowing down, getting the music right. And that's why I say the music will speak for itself and people will start to believe it eventually. They're not going to believe it right away. There will be a lot that don't, and that's just part of it. You're moving to a new side and a new demographic and everything. So I'm ready.
But it's just to be clear, every artist that I've been associated with in 30 years, no one cared at the beginning.
Yeah.
No one cared about. I'm not even going to get into stories. It's all on my podcast, and people know my journey. No one cares. You make them care. We're making them care.
That's what I said.
I don't care if anyone in the industry, booking agents, labels, care about what we're doing right now. This is about the fans. This is about the relationship between Taylor and converting followers into fans and getting new fans. The fans are our CEO. The fans hire you, they fire you, and that's all that matters. And they create your leverage, which allows everyone to come and say, hey, Taylor, want to have dinner? Hey, you want to do a brand sponsorship? I get the game. Don't hate the game. Hate the players. It is what it is.
There
That's
you go.
what we're
You
doing
said
here.
it.
So I don't care. We don't care. And you have to have that just for any artist out
Yeah,
there.
you're right.
And by the way,
100%
if you really want to talk about these influencers with massive followings, some girls you mentioned before, they're not good. I would not sign them. They're not musicians.
Yeah.
It's phony. It's not real. This is real. I only do real. I'm
Yeah,
not playing around.
100%.
We're playing for stadiums and arenas. That's how you make money. We're playing for fans. That's what we're doing. That's the business that I'm in.
Yeah, you said it. Well, listen, don't move a muscle. We're going to be right back for the extended segment. You guys have to check it out in all our OTT and OTA platforms. But for the moment being, that is Charlie Walk, and that was the amazing Taylor Holder. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure chatting.
Thank you for having us.
That was our Music Madness segment brought to you by Navi Travel. That was the legendary Charlie Walk, founder of Music Mastery and CEO of Aspen Music, host of the Walk This Way podcast. And that was country artist Taylor Holder. Check him out on the gram at Taylor Holder or on TikTok at It's Taylor Holder. And you are listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Nave, a members-only travel portal exclusively available through Organo, offering members steep discounts on nightly or weekly hotel stays, cruises, auto rentals, excursions, and so much more. With its travel getaway portal, Nave makes the days of surfing multiple travel sites and spending hours evaluating the best deals done with. That's because with Nave, you are guaranteed the best prices. Plus, to gain access to an even more expansive collection of condos, hotels, cruises, vacation villas, fantasy getaways, and concierge service, there's Forever Weeks. Simply purchase a Nave Forever Weeks package one time and enjoy the benefits many times. With Forever Weeks, forever means forever. Not only does Nave guarantee you the best prices, but it is also one of the few travel portals that pays a referral bonus, in addition to you earning rewards points, which can be redeemed on the Travel Getaway portal for further discounted hotel room rates. Become a member today and navigate the world of travel. Nave, the world for you to experience. For more information, go to nave.travel. That's nave, N-A-V-E.travel.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. Welcoming back to our Music Madness segment is the amazing Charlie Walk and Taylor Holder. Welcome back, my friends.
What's going on?
Great to see you again.
All right, so let's pick this up. We were talking about now the perks of becoming an influencer before you take on this bigger career path. Of course, you know, this comes with having a large audience, always being behind you, like in Taylor's case. And of course, that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because if you can sing, you can take those followers and convert them to actual fans, to your point. And in this particular case, somebody like Taylor, who's amassed over 20 million TikTok followers, almost caught your attention haphazardly. Charlie, do you think influencers deserve the hype?
I think some do and some don't. I think most are a moment in time. I think most are talentless. And I think just like any other business, it's about the 1%, right? The 1% social media platforms. You are a 1%er, you're talented. I'm in the 1% game. There's just very few stars in general. What's happened though with TikTok, it's stopped the artist development process at the labels. They'd rather just pick apart and find data that shows that someone has fans and whatever else, and then spend money there. I think there's a reason why we're not finding new stars playing stadiums. There's very, very few new stars. Where are the new John Mayers and the Princes and the Madonnas? And just, you can count in your left hands over the last 15 years. It's Justin Bieber. Harry Styles has been doing this since he's 15, and he's late 20s now. These were years and years of actual artist development. Billie Eilish, since she was 10, 11, wrote Ocean Eyes. I was with their manager a few years ago. We're talking about, she wrote it at 11 or 12 years old, and so it really is about doing the work and spending time. I think TikTok's kind of hurt the whole artist process. Yes, it's cool to have a one-hit wonder and bidding wars on that stuff, but those kids, don't end up having careers because there's no direction. It happens so fast. How do you run a marathon if you don't train for it? Taylor knows he has to sing 5 nights a week, so his voice doesn't crack when he hits stadiums and arenas. So what's he going to get in the stage in an arena and not be able to do them and cancel shows because he didn't do the work? No, everyone has to do the work. So I'm hard on this. And I am sick of hearing about the girls and the guys with these huge followings, and they try to sing and they get record deals. What does that have to do with anything? What does a record deal have to do with doing the work and connecting with fans? Labels aren't connecting you with fans. They're giving you money. Well, we want to acknowledge both, give you money and deploy capital to help him grow and do it smartly so he's not in the hole. Don't forget, for any artist out there, when you get a deal with somebody, a music publisher label, it's an advance against your futures. It's a loan. It's a high-paid, high-interest bank loan. Let's be clear. So we just want to do smart partnerships and do this right. And when we saw the CMT Awards the other night and he hit the red carpet for the first time with his mom, his date, and basically said, I am here, everyone went crazy. And they went more crazy than some other influencers that have hundreds of millions, because that's just not real. We're doing real.
And that's important. And that fan engagement and that conversion to fan engagement that Taylor has is very, very authentic and very, very unique, because you're right. People don't show up. You can have 5 million followers and who's really showing up for you. So I love it that Taylor's fans are concentrated. The fact that he has a very niche core market like country puts him even, really a big fish in a small pond of influencers that are trying to break into the industry and are all, pop or rap or hip hop. You need to have some really, really, really good vocals to do what you're doing. Taylor, what inspires your songwriting?
Oh, I mean, for me, for at least for the country side of everything, I was doing like pop and I dabbled in some R&B stuff before and all that. It was a long process of I was out in LA for a long time, just trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. And coming to Nashville kind of brought me back home. Like I said, I'm from a very, very small town in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. This is how I grew up. I grew up on country music. One thing that inspires me, I mean, I've always loved the creative side of everything. I've played instruments my whole life. I play like 5 different instruments. What inspires me the most is just the creativity behind all of it, the storytelling, the being able to really, I've never been able to talk to everyone's like, do you talk to a therapist sometimes? Do you talk to people? I've never been able to talk to people. I talk in my music. I love to talk about real moments that's going on in real life. That's why I love country music so much, is because, like I said, R&B and pop is cool. I love it. I love it so much. But it's kind of it all talks about one thing over here. And whenever you come to country music, the storytelling is absolutely insane. It's so beautiful. I went through real moments in real life, and I started to write about those instead of all this materialistic stuff, just always writing about a relationship or a female or money or whatever, right? You get to really actually talk about what's real and what's going on in your life. And I feel like that long-term is what people will listen to the most.
Yeah, well, like Charlie said, your fans, they're your CEO. You're talking to them. And if you're able to speak their language and they can relate with you and they could find comfort in your lyrics and in your songs and in the way that you're interacting with them, well, guess what? You're their therapist. And that's what makes you unique. That, it might be a one-sided mirror for you where you've never had to have a therapist. But I think what you just told the world is that your fans are therapeutic to you. And that's what drives the passion in you. And probably that's what Charlie saw. Charlie, how did you discover Taylor?
I was just going through socials, but one day a friend called me and said, there's this, I know you don't really mess with influencers and you don't take them seriously as artists, but there's one that can really sing. I said, well, let's meet. And he was coming to New York anyway for a meet and greet, and we had dinner, and we didn't talk. I didn't even care how he got here. I know he took 5 years of building his brand, doing whatever I call it, goofy influencer stuff. But he went deep on the music with me, and I kept on thinking about Morgan Wallen, and reminded me of a Morgan Wallen with his attitude and approach, and I love that path, and it just got me excited to if I'm going to play in the country world, which is a vertical I used to touch on with Taylor and Florida Georgia Line at the beginning and crossing them over, well, let's do it with this one guy, because I can't want it more than the artist.
Right.
And I think that's been my secret. I can't want it more than Taylor. He has to want to get up every day and work out for it. He goes to the gym, does his music. And the consistency of that and the repetition of that is the payoff at the end of the day. And we will see him in an arena next 24 months for sure. It's just the journey that we're on. It's up and down. It's hard sometimes. It's repetitive. But it's exciting. When you sit there I remember at Madison Square Garden, I stood at the board, Ariana Grande's mother, and we both looked at each other and cried. We did this. That is what I do for a living.
That's amazing. Well, you clearly have done this many, many times over, and you're going to do it again. Taylor, it must feel incredible to have somebody like Charlie have so much faith in you.
Absolutely. I got chills whenever you said it. I've obviously known about a lot of the stuff that Charlie has done, and being able to be introduced to him by someone that I hold really close to my heart. And, I trust them with everything. Being in the industry, it's really, I've been through a lot of bad managements. I've been through a lot of other stuff, and sitting down with Charlie and seeing how much he believes in me, and the way that he talks about me and what he sees, that's special to me, because I come from a small, like, population 3,000. Like, there's all I've ever wanted more than anything when I started this whole journey, even as an influencer, was someone to believe in me as much as I believe in myself, and take me under their wing and just put me in every position that I should be. And by all means, I don't want stuff handed to me at all, but I just want someone to believe in me like I do myself. I can't do it all myself. And Charlie has in fact done more than enough to prove how much he believes in me, and has brought me in whenever no one deserved to. And that means more to me than anything. So.
Oh, I
It's
love
also
it.
about the team. He's a great mother, and some of the mothers, don't understand the game, and they can be very difficult, right, and challenging than the moms. They were dealing with this for much much more longer than I have. He's got a
Yeah.
great support team that we've built around him, and he's also found some really good people. Don't forget, he's shooting content 24/7. He's living with some of these guys, and there's a lot of pressure that goes into waking up and having to be consistent to your audience every day. You wake up and you play to your bosses, your fans. So it is about the team and eliminating drama. Celebrity and fame are a drug. The bigger you get, the harder it gets. And you change. Fame changes every single person every time. And I'm very cognizant of that. And I'm immune to it to a certain degree. And as long as we talk about and understand that, you have your day job and you're on stage, then we're backstage, which is really right now. This is the truth and honesty session, and
Yeah.
why we chose to come on
Absolutely.
with you, because you're a truth teller. And
Yeah.
as long as you surround yourself with people that are truth tellers and honest, you really can get there and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and to touch on a little bit of what you said real quick is, you're always changing. You're always, all the stuff. That's true, and that's where, like, one thing where some people have a hard time seeing is because, no one knows, like, where I grew up. No one knows that, I went through, like, the team roping. I went through all this, like, stuff. Like, I grew up that lifestyle and that everything. But I did move to LA at such a young age, and in LA, you kind of adapt to where you're living. I wanted to be this famous kid on the internet, and I wanted to do this. And I was around like Justin Bieber and Chris Brown and Drake and all these people, and so I was adapting to like that lifestyle. And they're always like, oh, there's a city boy, and now he's trying to be this, and now he's trying to be a country artist, and he's all this stuff. It's like, stay in your lane. It's like, no, I'm growing up. I'm learning every year. I'm figuring. It's like, people forget that, like, every year you're evolving, you're changing, you're trying to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I went through a lot of different things. I absolutely went through every different opportunity that there was, because I was in, a position to where I was trying to adapt to be cool over there, instead of just really wanting to know what was cool to Taylor and what Taylor wanted to do for the rest of his life. And I think that that's just a part of growing up. People forget that. And so I've been at
Wow.
it since such a young age. And so, I went out there at 16 years old for my first time to figure it out. So, it's a process.
Taylor, you're an old soul. You are an old soul, and when you meet other old souls, you find your place in the universe. There are very few that take life seriously. But the fact that you found a passion, you worked at your passion consistently every single day. You didn't miss a beat. You're not lazy. These are things that your average teenager in today's world, believe me, as a mom to a 7-year-old, stepmom to a 21-year-old, and to an 18-year-old, I can tell you that, there's a lot of adolescents, especially in our Gen Z and our Gen Alpha, that are just lazy. They don't want to put in the work. And I have a big problem with that, huge problem with it, because I set the bar really, really high. Normal isn't good for me. Optimal is where I want to be. Even with respect to my lab work at the doctor's office, I say I don't want to be normal range. I want to be optimal range, right?
Mhm.
Because you can't base yourself on ranges are about unhealthy populations. Our population is primarily unhealthy. They're all, diabetes, high blood pressure, depressed, on some kind of drug or other. So that's a very unhealthy population. And normal has been the bar for normal has been lowered. So yeah, you have been doing everything above and beyond, and it's quite impressive. So thank you for coming on today and chatting. Charlie, thank you for finding Taylor and bringing him to the world. The
Anything for
right
you.
the right way. You got it, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Listen, singing is one of the easiest forms of music making, and everyone has a song to sing. Some release their new album in the shower, and others have access to the music industry mainframe. Access to musical instruments and the tools of the music industry has always been unequal. And as long as there is fame in this world, the influencer to singer pipeline will continue to operate. Taylor is one of those very few that comes with a whole bunch of talent. That was our Music Madness segment brought to you by Navi Travel. That was the legendary Charlie Walk, founder of Music Mastery and CEO of Aspen Music, host of the Walk This Way podcast. And that was country artist Taylor Holder. Check him out on the gram at Taylor Holder or on TikTok at It's Taylor Holder. And you are listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. We have the Scandals segment coming up, brought to you by Caldwell Soames. And today we're featuring our regular contributor, Imran Ansari of Idala Bertuna Kamens, otherwise known as ABK Law, right here in New York City. He's also a regular contributor and legal analyst on Law and Crime and Court TV. Today, we're chatting about the biggest legal issues currently facing Donald Trump. Now, it's hard to keep track of Donald Trump's very busy legal docket. He launched his 2024 presidential bid, was indicted by a Manhattan grand jury, making him the first former White House occupant to face criminal charges. All in all, Trump is the subject of at least 4 major investigations into the alleged wrongdoing relating to his handling of White House documents, to election, the insurrection, and his finances. The Manhattan DA's indictment over the hush money settlement to Stormy Daniels, the Justice Department's investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 elections. Now, geez, sometimes even Donald Trump has a point. This time, it's his claim that he's been singled out by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office for conduct that would probably not have been charged as a crime against anyone else. The indictment of the former president in New York is an undeniable historic event, actually the first ever criminal prosecution of a former US president. And here to give us legal insight on if any of these will stick is the amazing Imran Ansari. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thanks for having me, Zen.
Oh boy, let's start with the latest. Geez. So the Manhattan DA's indictment over the hush money settlement to Stormy Daniels. As we know, the parties are the District Attorney Alvin Bragg and Donald Trump. The issues, just to recap here, is Bragg's office has been investigating whether Trump violated campaign finance laws in connection to hush money payments made to Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. And a grand jury voted to bring criminal charges against Trump in the case. Does this stick, Imran?
Well, we really have to see and analyze the evidence here. That's going to be the telling aspect of whether these charges are grounded on sufficient evidence, not only to survive this indictment, for this indictment to survive motions to dismiss, but also to carry it through to trial. Remember, an indictment is just a charge. The grand jury has found that there's reasonable cause to believe and sufficient evidence that a crime may have been committed. It doesn't mean that a crime has been committed, and Donald Trump enjoys the presumption of innocence until he's proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So this is just a preliminary, and there is a whole area of where the defense will be looking to attack these indictments leading up into an ultimate or possible trial of this matter. Do the charges stick? Well, it all depends on the evidence and whether the prosecution can prove these charges beyond a reasonable doubt. And of course, how the defense will attack these charges and if they will be successful.
Now, Michael Cohen is about the least credible witness, and he happens to be a key witness here. He's Trump's former fixer and personal lawyer. He's testified under oath that he made the payments to Daniels at Trump's direction and pleaded guilty to federal campaign finance violations in connection with the payments in 2018. Now, there's also no indication at the moment that the case against him has any real precedent here in New York or elsewhere, if you look at it from a bird's eye view. I mean, Trump, of course, is not the first president or presidential candidate to engage in an extramarital affair. I mean, Democrat John Edwards was indicted by federal prosecutors in connection with the scheme to obtain nearly $1 million in funds from donors to conceal a mistress and child while he ran for president in 2008. But the Justice Department was unable to convict him. Former President Bill Clinton famously had an affair while in the White House. Hard to believe that he would be criminally charged by a local prosecutor for that conduct, even if he were to have done it recently. So the charges relate to Trump's 2016 alleged hush money scandal, which we know that Alvin Bragg has been investigating for 5 years. So all of a sudden, this does feel somewhat like a witch hunt. And of course, at this point right now, it's all up in the air. Who's to say what's really going to happen? I want to move on to Letitia James. So Letitia James, Imran, the New York Attorney General here, is leading a civil investigation, which, of course, we have to point out cannot result in criminal charges. And she has spent years looking at whether the Trump company committed, various acts of fraud over several decades. And in the civil case, she's filed a lawsuit against Trump and 3 of his children, accusing them of astounding fraud and deception. The lawsuit alleges that the family inflated their net worth by billions, and she's seeking $250 million that was allegedly obtained through fraudulent means. She's also seeking bans on Trump and his children from serving in a leadership role in New York businesses. Does this really affect Donald, and does she prevail?
So, Zen, what is really interesting about this civil suit brought by the Attorney General Letitia James in her office against Trump is that it's going to come likely to a grinding halt now that Donald Trump has been criminally charged under this indictment. Now, a civil case tends to yield to a criminal case. When there is a criminal defendant, typically the court will stay the civil matter because that defendant enjoys the right to remain silent. And if there's any chance or any possibility that the criminal defendant is going to have to be compelled to testify in a civil matter and that their right to remain silent and not incriminate themselves is jeopardized, then typically the court's going to stop that civil action, allow the criminal case to play out, and put that on the back burner. I expect that's going to happen now to Letitia James, her office's civil suit based on fraud against Trump, that is going to have to yield to that criminal case. But it's indicative of how these prosecutors, and of course this is a civil case, but Letitia James is the highest state prosecutor in New York State, are looking at the Trump family, the Trump organization, and really looking to pick apart things and seek charges against them, whether it be civilly or criminally. And it's just this whole tale of woe, of legal trouble for the Trump organization, Donald Trump, and his family. But it's going to be interesting to see how this criminal charge plays out, because as we talked about, this is a charge which is brought by Alvin Bragg as DA, but Cy Vance went out there and publicly stated that he didn't bring charges, and he could have brought these charges when he was the DA, but he yielded to the Southern District as they did their own investigation, but didn't bring charges against Donald Trump at that time. And also, arguably, Zen, there were more serious charges that Donald Trump could have arguably, theoretically, been brought up against, up on, other than these charges related to these alleged hush payments, but those weren't sought. And of course, there was an ADA, Mark Pomerantz, who left the office in frustration at Alvin Bragg for not pursuing those charges. So you have all these things playing out, Zen, but really what's going to take precedent now is this criminal case down in 100 Center Street in Lower Manhattan.
This guy's got more problems than a math book. Geez Louise. Now, the Justice Department's investigation into the handling of classified documents. Let's talk about that. So the FBI, of course, searched Trump's estate in South Florida, Mar-a-Lago, back in August as part of an investigation into the possible mishandling of government records, including classified documents. And Trump and his lawyers alleged prosecutorial misconduct and condemned the search as politically motivated. He has offered shifting defenses, which have mostly hinged on the argument that he declassified the material. Now, of course, we know that our current president, Joe Biden, had gotten stuck in the same crossfire with declassified material and classified material being mishandled as well. Where does this stand for Trump?
So I think that this DOJ is a federal investigation now, right, into the material that Trump arguably should not have possessed when he was outside of office. This confidential classified material that the Library of Congress was trying to get back, but and the National Archives, I should say, and he was going to cooperate, or seemed like he was cooperating, but then it didn't happen. But that's a big question mark, and I think it's really going to be something which is not going to be so substantial now that there's these criminal charges that he's facing. And again, there's a lot of argument to say that these criminal charges are going to be something that once the evidence comes out, not anything to really worry about. Of course, it's an indictment, but we have to see the evidence. And ultimately, a lot of people are saying this is going to backfire on Alvin Bragg and the supporters of bringing these criminal charges against Donald Trump. But the DOJ and their investigation into these classified documents, I think that's going to sort of take a second sort of role.
A backseat, yeah.
Because now, and you see, like you mentioned, Biden has been found to be in possession of these classified documents or classified documents himself. So now, you got two people, two presidents who have this material. I think it's going to cancel itself out in many ways, or both of them could be in trouble. But I think the document aspect of things is really the least of Donald Trump's worries at this point, and also the least strong of any sort of prosecution, if any of them have any strength that's brought against him.
Yeah. Okay. And then lastly, we have about 2 minutes left. Let's talk about the Justice Department's investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election. So federal investigators are scrutinizing, of course, the role Trump and his allies played in the effort to overturn the 2020 election. Now, we know that the Justice Department is facing pressure to prosecute following a string of congressional hearings that connected Trump to the violence of January 6th in 2021. Now, he's denied responsibility for the riot and criticized the Congressional Committee, which he describes as a kangaroo court and unselect pseudo committee. How serious is this, or is this also taking a second backseat?
Well, Zen, I actually think that this potential federal charge in stemming from Georgia, and also there's also state possible charges in Georgia, could be something that is arguably more serious than what we're seeing here in New York. Of course, federal crimes tend to have stiffer penalties. They tend to be more serious of crime. So if there is a arguable federal crime that has been violated here, and if the prosecutors for the DOJ are able to establish that sort of election based crime against Donald Trump, then that could be more of a problem than what we're seeing up here in New York City and Manhattan, just based on the seriousness of federal crimes and stiffer penalties and sentencing, et cetera. And that is, of course, if the DOJ is able to bring a viable case based on that. Right now, we just know it's investigations and potential grand jury action at some point, but we don't know for sure. Now, then there's the state case in Georgia, and that also deals with issues from the 2020 election. And this just adds to the pot here. It seems like all people are trying to get Donald Trump on some sort of legal charge. But if you have that sort of action, you better hope and make sure that the legal case you have against the president in this unprecedented sort of situation here with a former president being brought up on criminal charges, you better make sure you have a strong case, because if you don't, it's really going to backfire on Donald Trump's detractors And if there is a politically motivated prosecution here and that's established, that's going to have really horrible precedent for us as a country, no matter if you're a Democrat or Republican.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want a politically motivated prosecution. That's not what prosecutors do. That's not how the law is supposed to be applied. You don't want to weaponize that. So if that's established, then, we're going to have a lot of problems. And I'm talking about us collectively as a country.
Well, the problems are already arising because we did see, and we are seeing it firsthand, that this is weaponization, political weaponization. And it sure does feel like a witch hunt, because a lot of these cases brought against Trump don't feel very strong. In fact, they feel like a lot of fluff, and that if it was to his point and to his spokespeople's point, if this was the average person, that they would not be prosecuted or indicted. And you have to remember, it's already backfiring. In the 24 to 48 hours after Trump's indictment, his campaign saw $5 million in donations. So obviously people are feeling empathetic towards him, and his rhetoric of this is a witch hunt is proving to be exactly that. So I can't wait to see how this unfolds. But wow, this is another reality TV show playing out right in front of our eyes. And of course, the Donald is at the center of it all. Imran, thank you so much for coming on. It was such a pleasure.
Zen, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You guys have to check out my amazing friend Imran Ansari. That was the Scandal segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames. Check out Imran at Idala Bertuna Kamens, otherwise known as ABK Law. You can head directly to their website at idalalaw.com, or you could check out Imran on the gram at Imran Ansari ESQ. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Animoca Brands. As a worldwide industry leader in digital entertainment, blockchain, and digital property rights, Animoca Brands plays a key role in the future growth of the open metaverse. During unstable times like these in burgeoning industries similar to blockchain, it's important to realize that blockchain can and will survive and eventually flourish, and industry-leading companies like Animoca Brands will guide the transformation into the future. Animoca Brands will keep building a better and fairer Web3 ecosystem, create impact for better, and bring true digital property rights to all internet users through NFTs and the open metaverse. For more information and to become part of the excitement, go to animocabrands.com. That's animocabrands.com.
That's a wrap, my dear friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you could head to 710WOR.iheart.com/A Moment of Zen. Also remember that we're now live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m., YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m., and of course, all episodes are now available on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV streaming platform, 24/7 free programming. Do check out our channel there at mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.